So Scale 3D is the name I gave to this model I developed over an 8-year-long journey in my PhD that I completed earlier this year in February, which stands for Strategic Capacity Development and Leadership and Evaluation in 3 dimensions of depth, width, and length. So I'll share more about what those dimensions mean in a minute. But before that, maybe just to give you a bit more background about me. So, as I said, I developed this PhD at Maastricht Sustainability Institute over the past 8 years. Was an action research project where I combined my own practice work as a network weaver, practitioner, social entrepreneur with Ecolis, a European network of community-led sustainability initiatives, the Transition Network, also the Eco Village Network, and one that I was particularly involved with, the Students Organizing for Sustainability International. So the main context where I tested and applied and refined this conceptual framework, but also like a practice tool, were in this context of student-led sustainability initiatives, community-led sustainability initiatives, but also citizen-led peace-building initiatives. But I think the resulting framework is really applicable to all kinds of social innovation or transformative networks, movements, initiatives. But yeah, just the kind of context that I was mostly focusing on were, just to give you an example, like food cooperatives, community agriculture or urban garden initiatives, housing cooperatives, or community energy cooperatives. It's really all about like people, citizens coming together to create local systems, local economies, where they can have more of a say on how to redesign, reimagine systems of livelihoods, of food production, energy, and so on. And here's an example of like a community climate action center. And what really fascinated me was that many of these local initiatives are connected through networks on a national, international scale. And I really looked at how these networks, like here in the picture, like the mycelium that connect them across locations, can contribute to the capacity of those initiatives and movements to bring about more transformative impact in the world, to really challenge and create alternatives to established systems and institutions that are failing people and planet. And it occurred to me more through initially an intuitive sense making of my own as I looked into theory U and the scaling literature, that it kind of boils down to 3 dimensions of what it means to bring about more transformative impact. So it's about having a more widespread influence in many different places and contexts, rather than just a narrow initiative that's just reaching the same kind of people in a very specific place. But it's also about deep fundamental changes in our structures and policies, but also the culture, ways of doing, ways of thinking, paradigms and mindsets, and really embedding alternative ways of doing things in culture and in new policies and legal structures, rather than just having a sort of shallow change that's within the existing system without really changing the underlying structures. And I think the most innovative part of the framework that's often overlooked is the time dimension of having long lasting impact and being able to reproduce over time and to continue evolving those new structures or institutions, rather than having a sort of volatile, short lasting impact that can easily fall apart again. So I broke these 3 dimensions down into 3 layers of how network leadership, or the activities, the distributed activities of many different people and organizations, networks, can build the transformative capacity, the ability of those initiatives and movements to bring about widespread, deeply embedded, and lasting change. And there's many more layers in the framework, but I'll just mention a few of them here. So it's about spreading and adapting solutions, engaging diversity of people and ways of thinking, and building also coherence across those different adaptations and experiments, and weaving together collaborations across many different movements and organizations working collaboratively on change. And then deepening the capacity to bring about fundamental changes, well, addressing deeper root causes of why things are not working well in existing systems, practicing effective solutions and systemic solutions, and enacting core principles while adapting to many different settings. And also cooperating across public, private, and civil society sectors, and challenging dominant power structures, and even reconciliation and healing of collective trauma. And then the lengthening is about bringing the sense of continuity over time and being resilient to setbacks and crises that are inevitable and increasingly likely, but also to continue evolving and sensing and adapting to changing context and learning, reorganizing, distributing leadership, and maturing across stages of maturity of initiatives that are starting, that are more established and potentially need to shift form. Yeah, so this is what I wanted to explore with you in a more embodied way as we move forward. Just wanted to say a few more things here about the process of how this can be used. So first step is to just articulate more intentionally what is the impact, the transformative impact as an initiative that we want to be in service to, and what sort of outcomes, what sort of transformative capacities we want to build among our target group. And then to, in the second step, define the roles or activities that can help contribute to those outcomes or impacts. So that's basically building a theory of change, right? And then the third step, or there's 3, 4, 5 steps in my framework of creating like indicators, evaluation systems, and really embedding that in a culture of learning, and not just reporting to your funders, but continuously cycling through these impact goals, activities, and collecting data to make better decisions and adapt your plans over time. And the way I kind of poetically encapsulate this idea of adaptive learning over time is to ask yourself, on which journey are we to go? To find our way, what must we know? And hence make sense of which info. So an example that you could dive deeper if you want to, I won't go much into it, is in the past 4 years I worked with Transition Network in the UK part of Transition Network, the Transition Together project, where we defined various objectives under each of those 3 dimensions, like spreading transition approaches across the country, engaging more diverse people in transition, but also practicing more systemic solutions, weaving just transition into community-led action, and ensuring the longevity and resilience of communities. And then we structured the impact report according to those objectives, and also like throughout the project, try to review and adjust plans based on these 3 dimensions. So to wrap up the presentation, some of the main benefits I think this 3D model can bring is, first of all, just the simplicity of this language of deepening, widening, and lengthening, which I find can be quite an intuitive way of making sense of the complexity of all the things that we need to pay attention to and bringing about complex systems change. And in that simplicity, there's a lot of complexity, but so it can help to bring also cohesion among many different projects or initiatives or networks by looking at how are all these different initiatives contributing to widening, deepening, and lengthening. And so I see it on the one hand like these 3D glasses you can put on, like when you go to the movies and you put on those 3D lenses, but also like a compass with 3 needles that can help you to stay oriented towards what long-term impacts do you wish to to work towards, and how do you adapt and move along that journey. And yeah, my personal vision is that this scale 3D, this model, this way of looking at impact becomes more widely used and institutionally embedded, also in how funders think of and commission evaluation, and also continuously evolving as more people use it and adapt it in their own ways, as a way of looking at and understanding, evaluating, and strategizing for transformative impact.